Okay, good morning. As we go to the Chumash of today, today is Thursday. We read the fifth reading in the portion of Vayera. We are holding on chapter 21, verse number 5. Avram ben Avram Avinu was 100 years old. When he had Yitzhak was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made joy for me. Whoever will hear this story will rejoice over me. Rashi Yitzchak rejoice as he translates Yitzchak Li, he rejoiced for me. And Midrashic, many barren women were remembered with her. God brought about a miracle not only for Sarah but for many women at that time. Many sick people were healed on that very same day. So it was a very happy day in that area, because people were suddenly healed and everybody was happy, and many prayers were answered with hers, and there was much joy in the world, and that's why she said everybody's happy. It's a happy day. And she said, who would have said that that Sarah would nurse children? For he has born a son in his old age. Rashi says an expression of praise and esteem, as who wrote and who has done this? Who has created these? See what he has, and when he look at this but Kiddush Hashem. This is this miracle brought about the sanctification of God's name, which Avram Avinu and Sarah self-understood. They came to the world to accomplish this Kiddush Hashem. They made the biggest Kiddush Hashem. Milel, Scripture uses an unusual word and does not say diber. It says the word milel. Milel is also the same thing as diber, but it's an unusual word for diber. Usually the verse never uses it. Over here, why does the verse use milel? So Rashi says, this is Rashi doesn't usually go to Gematria. Rashi says the numerical value of the word milel is 100. And at 100, so Milel Avram Avinu had a child at 100 years old. Mem Lamed is 100. Iniko Banim Sarah. Why children? She didn't have children. She had one child. On that day of the feast, the princesses brought their children with them, and she nursed them because they didn't believe that she. They said maybe they adopted this baby. The baby comes to somebody else. So the proof that she had a baby was that she could nurse. So not only did she nurse Yitzchak, she nursed other children, which showed that Eibishter gave her a child. Then the young boy grew up, and he was weaned from his mother. And Avram Avinu made a party on the day that he was weaned. Rashi says, when was that? At the end of 24 months. At the age of 2 years old. Mishte Gadol, he made a big party. What means a big party? Rashi says, all the prominent people generation were there. Shem, Aver, Avimelech, all the big knackers were at this party. And that's why it was called a big party. Sarah's Ben Hagar, Amitzis, Ashayolda, Avamitzachik. And then Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had born to Abraham, making merry. Don't forget, he was 13 years older than Yitzchak. Actually, 14 years older than Yitzchak. Making merry is mitzvah, a special idolatry. It says, and they rose and to make melatzachik. Later on with the golden calf, it uses the same expression, litzachik, to make merry. Another meaning, it's gila royas, illicit sexual relationship. So she was a little bit of having immoral life. It says, to makmi litzachik, also we find that that's a concept of immorality. Another church answer is a that he was murdered. He was killing people. He was murdering people. And this is an expression of murder, as it's also we see the word by Yitzchak, the concept of sport. Those a lot of times in history, murder was part of the sport. Part of the sport of the day to murder people, to murder the weak, slaves, etc. So she said to Avram, it's time to move on. It's time to take this handmaid, that's Benah and her son, because you cannot have that the inheritance of Avram is going to go to Yishmael. Now she says, from Sarah's reply, for the son of the handmaid shall not inherit with my son, you'll learn that he would have quarreled with Yitzhak regarding inheritance and say, I am the firstborn. That was an inheritance. We weren't not worried about the physical inheritance, especially to the spiritual inheritance. Sarah didn't want that Yishmael should have any say in the matter. I am the first to take 2 portions, and they would go out in the field, and he would take his bow and shoot his arrow at him. Like the one who wearies himself shooting firebrands. So this was happening actually. Yishmael was taking Yitzhak into the field, a little kid, and he was playing games with him, like, I'm the firstborn, let's see if I can shoot straight. And Bani Yitzhak, just because he's my son, even if we're not deserving as Isaac, or if he were as deserving as Isaac, even if it was not my son, this one Yishmael does not deserve to inherit with him. How much more so that he doesn't deserve to inherit when he's my son with Isaac, with both qualities. And this matter greatly displeased Avram, concerning his son. What does that mean? As she says, the simple meaning doesn't mean concerning his son to send away his son, but concerning his son because he heard his phone to wicked. He said, "Wow, I didn't realize that my son, my love is covering over the truth. I'm realizing my son is not so righteous. He's a bit of a troublemaker." That's pshute, and according to the simple meaning that Sarah asked him to send away the son. God said to Abraham, do not be displeased concerning this maid, this lad, and concerning your handmaid. Whatever Sarah tells you, Shema b'kel. Here we see that Sarah was greater than Avram. Because through Isaac is your inheritance. Now she says, as I said, listen to the voice of Sarah. We learn from here that Avram was inferior. Sarah's prophecy. The Sarah had a greater prophecy than Avram Avinu. You're worried about Yishmael. Don't worry. Your son Yishmael will also be a great nation. Because he's your seed. And there we see Vayashkem Avram Baker. Avram Avinu got up right in the morning after he had this nevuah. He got up in the morning, he took a bread and leather pouch of water. He gave it them to Hagar. He placed them on her shoulders. As a yelad and a child, not a child, he's 14, 15 years old. And he sent her packing. And she went and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. So that should be nuts. Why would he send them out with water and wow? Avram Avinu is sending out his son and with water and bread. Could have given her gold and silver. She would have enough to buy the water and the bread. But he didn't give her any kind of gold and silver. Because he was angry. That he went on evil ways. He's living in Avram's house, and he's going to idolatry and murder, and immorality. What's going on over here? As a yelad, he also placed a child on his shoulder, because Sarah had cast an evil eye upon him, and he was seized by fever, so they could not walk on his feet. He was sick. Atela vatesa. She went and wandered. What does it mean, a wandering? She reverted to the idols of her father's house. She was angry. And she decided, you know what? I'm going to become back an idol worshiper. You'll see later on Torah that actually Avram returns Hagar after the passing of Sarah. Sarah was a righteous woman ultimately. And the water was depleted from the leather pouch. And she cast the child under one of the bushes. Simple reason, because he was a sick child. So he drank up all the water. She went and sat down from afar, about the distance of 2 bow shoots. Because she said, let me not see the death of this child. And she sat from afar, and she started to cry. From afar, as 2 bow shoots, and it was an expression of shooting an arrow. It is used so in the language of the Mishnah. That the concept of shooting, hit him, cohabits with his wife, because he considered the concept of a relationship that it shoots like an arrow, etc. And that's you have kimat again, the expression of a shooting of an arrow. Next Rashi, when he drew near to death, she went further away, more than even 2 arrows. She walked away from him. God heard the cry of this child. And an angel called out to Hagar, and a shamayim from the heaven. And he said to her, Malach Hagar, what is the matter? Why are you crying? Al tiri, don't be afraid. Because God heard the voice of the child. Asher Usham, in the place where he is. Rashi says, why? What do you mean you heard the cry of the child? It doesn't say the child cried. It says in the Torah that she cried. Self-as the child was crying because he was sick. He was thirsty. So Rashi, from here we learn that a sick person's prayer is more effective than the prayer of others on his behalf. And therefore, a sick person should pray themselves. Besides other people praying for them, they should pray themselves. And the cry of the sick person is the cry that will be answered first. And that's why God responded to the cry of the child. This is an interesting expression. According to the deeds that he has does, now he's judged, not according to his destiny. Why? Because the ministering angels was accusing and saying, the ministering angels was this child, Ishmael, was going through a time of judgment. And the Malach was saying, you know what? Let this child die. Why? Because this child is going to give tzadis. This child will give a lot of tzadis to the Jewish people in the future. So the accused said, a lot of you for one who is destined to kill your children with thirst. You're bringing up a well. What are you going to do? You're going to make a miracle for this kid? This Ishmael is going to make a lot of tzadis. We all know that. But the story, the Ishmaelim didn't give water to the Jews. And there's a separate story with thousands of Jews died from thirst. So the Abish answered, God said, what is he now? Don't tell me what his grandchildren are going to do, his great-grandchildren. I'm asking the question, what is he right now? And right now, he's not wicked. They replied, righteous. Said to them, according to the present deed I judge. This is the meaning of what he is, where he is. Now, where did he kill Israelites with thirst? When the Nebuchadnezzar exiled them. The stated in Isaiah. A harsh prophecy concerning Arabia. So the thirsty bring you water. And they led beside the Arabs. The Israelites said to the captors, please lead us beside the children of our uncle Yishmael. And they will have mercy on us. As stated, the caravans and of the dead. Do not read the Daidanim, Dedanites, Eladaidim, uncles. So the Jewish people, as they were being led out, structure the first temple, they said, let us go through our uncle's family, Ishmaelim, the Arabs, and they will help us. They'll give us food. And the Ishmaelites went for them, and they brought them salt meat and fish and inflated inflated skins. So what happened? They ate this salty fish. They got extremely thirsty. The Israelites thought they were full of water, and one would place it into the mouth and open it. The air would enter their body, and they would die. So here, a famous story, but we don't have to give the Ishmaelim. We know what they have done to the Jewish people throughout history. Whatever. So but that's a story that the Malachim were talking about water. And why would you save this Ishmael when ultimately they would put the Jewish people through suffering, with giving them salty food and them not giving them water, and that would brought them a lot of Jews to die. Kumi Siesanar, so the angel said to Hagar, pick up this child. The Chaskei, take him. Why are you running away from the child? That's what a child needs the mother. Go there, grab the child, Yod Chabad, put your hand on him, because don't worry, he's not going to die. He's going to become a great nation. And God opened her eyes. She saw a well of water. He went and filled a pouch of water. And he gave the child to drink. And God was with this lad. And he grew up. He lived in the desert. And he became an archer. And she says he shoot arrows with a bow. Kesses, he's designated because he's like occupation, like a chama, a donkey driver, gamal, a camel driver. So the Keshes is the kind. He became a archer. He became a person that was a good with his bow and arrow. Yeshev Midbar Paran, and he lived in the desert of Paran. Atikach le'imai isha, and his mother took him for a wife. Mother gave him a wife, Meretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt. Hagar, as Rashi says, as we know, Rashi mentioned before, Hagar was a princess in Egypt, the place where she grew up. She brought him a girl from Egypt. As it stated, and she was an Egyptian hammer. This is what people say: throw a stick in the air. Expression of the Gemara: throw a stick in the air and land in its place of origin. So too, Hagar ultimately was always connected to Egypt, and that's where you threw the stick in the air, she's gonna come back to Egypt, and that's what she was. That's why she looked into where she came from to give her son a girl to the land of Egypt. And that completes the Chumash for. We now go to a new letter, the 28th letter of the Tanya. And this is another beautiful letter that the Alter Rebbe wrote after the passing of another person to console his good friend, Berditchev. Avlevi Yitzchak Berditchev was a good friend of the Alter Rebbe, and they also were chatanim. Their children married. Children married each other, so they were good friends. Avlevi Yitzchak Berditchev, his son passed away, and the Alter Rebbe wrote him a letter. Actually, there's a great site in Berditchev for the Levi Yitzchak and his two sons that are buried together. Actually, in the past year, they found actually the original, used to be a place where people would go, and they didn't realize actually the original caver was much deeper down in the ground, was covered up. They uncovered the original burial sites of Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev and his two sons. So the Alter Rebbe, after he lost his son, I believe Yitzchak Berditchev lost his son, and the Alter Rebbe wrote him a letter, a beautiful letter, which the Alter Rebbe's sons put in the Tanya. This is the 28th letter of the Alter Rebbe. Shekosel Mechutantri, which the Alter Rebbe wrote to his relative by marriage. Mechutanim, that's the word Mechutana, say the Mechutanim. Harav Agoyin Mefursim, Ishalikim Kodesh Hashem, famous rabbi, the Goyin, the godly man, Ner Yisrael, lamp of Israel, Amud HaYemini, the pillar of the right hand, Apatish HaChodesh, the mighty hammer. Oreinu Rabbeinu, our master, Harav Levi Yitzchak, Shmasei Eden, Av Bezdin, the Kilas Kodesh Baditcher. This is what the son is writing this. The sons are writing this. This is the letter with the Alter Rebbe, because the Baditcher was already passed away. This is what the Alter Rebbe wrote to the Baditcher of blessed memory. And the head of the head of the Bezdin, he was the Levi Baditcher. He was the rabbi of Baditcher. The Nachme Abtiras Benoy. He wrote this letter on the consolum and the passing of his son, the Baditcher son. The pious Rabbi Meir, the son of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, may his soul rest in Gan Eden. So this is the letter. The Gemara asks the question. You see, in the book of Deuteronomy, not in the book of Deuteronomy, we have the portion. We have Chukas, and right before Chukas, we have the story, which is the mitzvah Paraduma, the red heifer, and right before that we have the story of Miriam, the passing of Miriam. So if you remember the Rashi, then Rashi says, bring the Gemara, Lama Nismacha Parshas Miriam, Parshas Parah. Why did Parah put together the story of the passing of Miriam with the story of with the mitzvah Paraduma? The Gemara answers, Ma Parah Mechaperes. Just like the Parah brings forgiveness, atonement on a person that sins, so too the passing of a tzaddik. Passing of a tzaddik brings atonement to the world. So the comment in this quotation of the Gemara, Tosfos over the end of the Gemara, explains that the red heifer atones for the sin of the golden calf. That was the general, that the red heifer came to atone, because really the red heifer comes to not atone, it comes to purify. A person that was impure needs to, especially impurity of death, he needs to go through the sprinkling of the red heifer. So really it comes to purify. But we know that the red heifer itself, the sacrifice of the red heifer, that's the ashes purified. The sacrifice of the red heifer was a calf, was a red calf, comes to atone the sin of the sacrifice itself comes to atone the sin of the golden calf. The sin of the golden calf. And for the same way, the passing of the righteous affects atonement. That's what the Gemara says. Basically, this explains the meaning of the Gemara. Back to Tzad after that, ask the question. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. So, question still doesn't answer the question. Why Paraduma? Why the red heifer? What is the red heifer that comes to atone sin? I mean, you can put it next to carbon chatas. Why don't you pick a carbon that really atones sin, which is a sin offering? Why dafka the Paraduma? Why dafka this? You understand why the patch considered him passing me specifically with the red heifer? The Gemara doesn't answer that question. The question is what is the connection between the death of Miriam and the Paraduma? The Gemara answers the Paraduma chaperes. A lot of things are machap. A lot of other sacrifices bring forgiveness. Especially as I said, carbon chatas. And it's even bigger question. The bigger question is because you're right that that the Paraduma brings forgiveness. The Paraduma was not even done in the Beis Hamikdash. The Paraduma, the red heifer, was done on the Mount of Olives. Right now, which is the biggest cemetery in the world. That's where the Paraduma was made. It was made a ramp from the Mount of Olives. It was a ramp that went straight from that mountain straight into the Beis Hamikdash for one reason. They used to bring the Paraduma on that mountain. And they had a mizbeach, they had a big altar. They would burn it out there, and then they would bring the ashes into the Beit Hamikdash. So this Parah Adumah, which brought purity to the Jews, and as we just mentioned, brought forgiveness for the golden calf, was not even done in the Beit Hamikdash. Anasa chutz l'shalosh machlis, which was prepared out of the three camps. In the time of the desert, when the Moshe Rabbeinu made the Parah Adumah, he prepared this Parah Adumah. That was the first Parah Adumah in the Torah. It was made by Moshe Rabbeinu. He did it outside the three camps of the Jewish people. So as such, as not sacrificed properly. It was not a carbon. Carbon you can't bring out of the Beis Hamikdash. A carbon needs to be brought in the base. So this was a sacrifice that was not even brought into the Beis Hamikdash. I keep on saying the same thing. It should have been connected if you really wanted to bring an analogy of an animal, of a carbon that brought forgiveness. The Torah should have put the story, the death of Miriam, near a carbon chatas, the law of a sin offering, a nasim b'fnim, which was brought in the Beis Hamikdash, Agaba Mezbeach, brought on the temple on the altar in the temple, kapara mamish. That is totally for forgiveness. That is totally, if a person did a sin and he brings a carbon, brings a forgiveness. Now put Miriam near that law. Well, why does the Torah put it near the Parah Adumah? That it's only in the Torah, it's only something that brings purity. Oh, but we know that it also brings forgiveness. Don't say that in the Torah. That's we learn from the sages learn that. So that it brings forgiveness for the golden calf is not explicit. Number two, it's not brought in the Beis Hamikdash. It's brought outside. So it's a good question. The Alter Rebbe has a good question. So alternatively, the Hebrew text could have understood it to mean an actual altar of atonement, or preferably the sin offering was actual atonement. Unlike the red heifer, which was primarily a rite of purification. So to revert to the question concerning the connection between the two passages, the Alter Rebbe explains that the offering connotates an arousal from the below. The Alter Rebbe answers this according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah. When the soul of the animal that derives from Klippas Neged, this in turn elicits a reciprocal arousal from above, drawing down a finite order of divine light that can permeate the finite world and be integrated, ingested within. This character explains why offerings are referred to food of the altar. So every offering, carbon, right? The secret of a carbon is where a Jew takes something from this world, an animal, which is symbolic of his animal. That's why he did a sin. And he creates a connection. He wants to reconnect. When we want to reconnect from below, God responds, as we say, as we know, one of the miracles of the Beis Hamikdash, the fire came down from heaven and ate the carbon. So the Jew brought a carbon. Carbon means to become close. A Jew brought a sacrifice. That's called in Chassidut a sarusa dilatata, an arousal from below. That's what we expressed before. The feminine waters, the arousal from below, and this arousal from below, where a Jew wants to connect to God from below, bottoms up. Then there's a response from above. That's the concept of a carbon. And that's why the carbon needs to be exact, tamim, etc. It needs to be brought in a certain time. It needs to be brought in a certain animal. It needs to be unblemished. Because if you want to make a arousal from above, below, to awaken a arousal from above, you need to be perfect. Or else it's not going to be a perfect response. So the response is according to the way the person prepared himself to acquire this response. So therefore the response is specific. And that's why each carbon has a specific, as I said, a specific kind of animal, specific kind of response from below. Because it needed to have, the main thing it needed is not that what we did from below is what the response from above. And that's kapara. The way we come to God to ask forgiveness, that's why God forgives us. Kid, as expression, and we say in Davi, in Kippur, Kidvarechem, Salachti Kidvarechem, I have forgiven you according to the way you asked. And the arousal from below will receive a specific response from above. Now, that's a regular carbon. Now we come to the paraduma. The paraduma is something that's a chukah. It's something that's above understanding. Even Shlomo Melech couldn't understand this concept of the paradum, the red heifer. The red heifer, by contrast, produces a sanctified purification water. The red heifer is a chukah. It's such a powerful thing that it purifies. It has the power of purification. Meaning, it draws down an illumination from the most supremely sanctified levels of divinity, Kodesh Elyonim, that it only transcends this world. How? Even Shlomo Melech didn't understand how that works, but ultimately we see that a person that becomes tamei to a dead person, which is the highest level of impurity in the Torah. How can such a person become pure? The paraduma purifies it. In essence, we are all impure. If you went to a funeral, if you were in a home with a dead person, we're all impure. There's nothing today that can make you pure. Totally purity. That's why when the Mashiach comes, we'll have to have the paraduma to purify us before going into the Beis Hamikdash. So the purity, we are impure, and there's nothing in this world that can break that impurity. We need the paraduma because naturally nothing can break impurity. It's impure. You become impure by the highest level of impurity. How are you going to break it? There's nothing in this world that can break it. Only something that brings about something that's higher than this world, that can break the impurity of this world. We know those expressions we see. It says that the ultimate Eibush is going to break the impurity. Only the Eibush can. We can do a lot, and we have to create a desire in God to be able to ultimately bring Mashiach and to break this impurity of the world. God will ultimately purify us. God will take away the impurity of the world, which is the impurity of the world is connected to the evil of the world, negativity and death. So that ultimately God has to do, because it's out of our control. We don't have that power in a normal way. Able to put in the world as a paraduma and said, even if a person will come impure, how is that person going to come out of his impurity? I'm going to give you something above normal. Doesn't make any sense. A carbon chatos makes sense. You did a sin. You use your animal soul to do the sin. Bring an animal that will symbolize the elevation of the animal soul. And because when a person brings an animal, he has to feel like he's being brought on the altar and do tshuva, and I'll respond to your wanting to become closer. But what does the paraduma do? Paraduma do, they take this animal, you burn it. You turn it into ashes. And now the ashes, you mix it with the water in the temple, boom, and now you can purify people. How does that work? You're right, it doesn't rationally work. This is something that's above any rational understanding. So that's the power of the paraduma. The power, seemingly, the Eibush said, God says in the Torah. That's why we just follow the Torah. The Torah says, you do this concept. I'm not asking you to understand it. If you do this concept, it will have a response that is unbelievable, that will purify a person that becomes impure. So the intense illumination can transfer darkness of Toyu into the light of Tikkun. That's the power. The darkness of Toyu, impurity. Where does impurity come from? Death and impurity come from. Sin is not impure. Impurity is much more harder than a sin, in a way. Right? You sin, you do tshuva. You cannot do tshuva on impurity. You can become the holiest man in the world. You're still going to be impure until you're going to have the red heifer. So impurity is above comprehension. Tshuva is not above comprehension. You did a sin. Repent. But with purity, that's that I am impure. And that I need to become pure. That's above comprehension, above my pay grade. Above any of our pay grades. It's above and beyond our comprehension. How we become impure? I mean, I know how to become impure. I went to a funeral, I became impure. But how do I break that impurity? Because that impurity comes from the world of Tayu. In general, impurity, which is a connection to evil, etc., darkness, etc., comes from the world of Tayu. And I need to, in its essence, awaken up something from the world of Tayu. How can I rationally awaken up something from the world of Tayu, the world of chaos? I don't have that capability. Only God gave me the tool. And that is the paraduma. God said, I'm giving you an irrational thing to do. Take a red heifer, all the laws of the red heifer, which is extremely difficult, and to take it out of the Beis Hamikdash. Means you take it out of the world of normal degree of holiness, do it out of the 3 camps, burn it, and use its ashes. Because that's what it accomplishes, which is far lower, but to secure for even the harshest degree of impurity, Aviyah Veistun, which is far lower than Klippus Leiga. The same way, passing of the tzaddik draws down a divine illumination that transcends the world. Because the question is, why does the tzaddik die? It says a person dies because of his sin. Tzaddik doesn't sin. So why does the tzaddik die? Tzaddik dies, which is above understanding. And therefore, he creates in the world something that's above comprehension. He brings down a light in the world that's above and beyond the normal degrees, the descent of this of normal light in this world. It creates something. Therefore, it's machaper. It brings down a concept of kapara to the world. So the same way the Pasuk Tzaddik goes down a divine illumination that transcends the world's deriving, as it does from the elements of the 13 attributes of mercy, which is called Tikkun or Noitza. The name of this Tikkun is called Noitza. Tikkun is to rectify, which comprises the same letters of Ratzain. Noitza has the same letter of Ratzain, which is will, which is what the expression we say in Eis Ratzin brings about an 8th Ratzin, an auspicious time. Ratzin is a goodwill. Eis Ratzin, an auspicious time. It's an Eis Ratzin. Now is an Eis Ratzin. We mentioned in the previous letter of the Alter Rebbe that the passing of a tzaddik is a time where love comes to the world. A greater expression of chesed comes to the world. It's called an Eis Ratzin. It's an auspicious moment. So an auspicious time to secure atonement for sins of the generation. Even those that are committed even those that were committed willfully, and that derive from the 3 klippas of impurity, passing of the tzaddik is like the bringing of the paraduma. It has such a revelation in the world that it brings about purity in the world. That's the way the Alter Rebbe explains the Gemara. Why does it put the 2? Why do we put the paraduma, the law of the red heifer, with the passing of Miriam? Was just like the red heifer, does something that is supernatural. It transforms the tumah, the impurity of the world, into purity, which to be able to accomplish that, you must bring about a greater light that's higher than your capacity. And that's why it's a chukkah. It's not a normal mind, intellectual way of doing it. It's to do the mitzvah, do what God says to do. So too, the passing of a tzaddik. Miriam was a tzaddikus. Passing is Miriam. The passing of the Alter Rebbe is writing this letter to the Baditch of his son. to the Baditchev about a son. The passing of this tzaddik brings about a revelation of God in the world that is higher than the normal descent of light in this world, energy in this world, and therefore forgives even on willful sins of people that have done in this world. So this was a general. We're going to go into it now, and we're going to go into it in the Alter Rebbe's words. So in regard to this, the Paschal Tzaddik is thus more akin to the red heifer than a sin offering. That's the answer to Alter Rebbe. That's where the Torah didn't put the passing of Miriam near the law of a regular korban chatas. But that's a normal way of response of forgiveness of sin. Red heifer is a supernatural response. And the passing of the tzaddik is a supernatural response. And now let's listen to the way the Alter Rebbe says it. Now the mystical principles of the sacrifice offering and the altar is known for the sacred Zayah. So the Rabbi Yitzchak Levi Arizal explains this mystical meaning of a korban. Why did the Torah have the whole portion, the whole book of Vayikra, Leviticus, something that most of us are uncomfortable with, sacrificial offerings? But the Arizal and the Zohar explains the mystical meaning behind the sacrifice. What's the mystical concept behind the sacrifice? The mystical meaning is the instance of the elevation of Mayin Nukvim, means the feminine waters. Feminine waters means, again, we have masculine water, we have the waters that come from above, and we have the waters that come from below. You know, we went to the flood, we know that it rained from above, and God opened up the waters from below. In Kabbalah, that's the difference between something that comes from above is called in Kabbalistic terms, Asarusa delay, an awakening from above. Mayim Nukvim, feminine waters, is the concept of the awakening from below. That's why we, the Jewish people, are considered Mayim Nukvim. We are the feminine. We all take things from below. We take what we receive and we elevate it. And that's Mayim Nukvim. In Nefesh HaBahamis, we take from our animal soul and we uplift it to God. Korban, to bring korban. Korban comes from the word to be close. So we take our Nefesh HaBahamis, whether it's symbolic through a cow, through a sheep, through a goat, through a bird, through ultimately flour and oil. We take our animalistic beings and we elevate it, bring it up on the korban, bring it up closer to God. And that's really the whole mystical concept of Kabbalah. Very deep concept, but in short, El Shoshim B'Koyim, we elevate it to the root and to the source. And these are the forms of the four animals which Yecheskel said, I saw the Merkava in the book of Ezekiel. He explains the Merkava, it's called the chariot above, which he expresses is one of the expressions on the Merkava is of the animal. So there's the animal the way it's below, there's the animal the way it's above, and we bring the animal the way it's below to its source, Pnei Shor, Pnei Nesha, to the face of an ox, or face of an eagle. So the former level of divinity is the source of the soul of Adam. And the latter is the source of the soul of birds. Pnei Nesha, the eagle, and Pnei Shor. The beings of these two categories of creatures from which offerings were brought. The other two categories, the face of a lion and the face of man, are alluded to the closing phrase, and so on. Offerings thus constitutes an elevation and an arousal from below. That's the whole concept of an offering. For a willing recipient towards the level of divinity, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying for each and every one of us to make an offering to God. Truth is, that's what we daven every day. Tefillah is b'makom kabbanas tiknu. Tefillah was established instead of the carbon. So we don't have carbonas, we don't have physically a carbon today, sacrifice today. So we daven. Concept of davening is to go from below to above. The aspect of learning is to bring something from above to below. We're revealing godliness, the wisdom of God in the world. That comes from above. And that's why it's a matana. Torah is a matana. Torah is a gift. That's the blessing that we make on Torah. We thank God for the gift of Torah, because Torah comes from above. Tefillah, prayer, comes from below. Tefillah comes from our service. We pray. We pray. We bring ourselves closer to God. Time of the Beis Hamikdash, and we hope Mashiach comes quickly and we'll again do karbanos. We'll again bring a physical carbon. We'll take physically the animal that is below and we'll bring it we'll connect it to its animal face the way it's above. The way it's in the Merkava, in the Ezekiel's chariot, which over there he saw the real source of animal. That's why it's called Pnei, the face of animal, the true face. Truth is, the true face of man is the way he's above. Just like an animal has its source above, so too a human being has his source above. So this is the connection, right? Like days and what happens? Now that we have an awakening from below, we awaken up Mayim Duchrin, the male waters, from the benefactor above, the giver. Who is the giver? God. That's what we express over here. God is the masculine. So in the masculine, because God's not, as you mentioned, the class, God's not masculine or feminine. But here's the concept of the Jew is the feminine, because he's the one who's the receiver. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to receive something from above. We're trying to elicit something from above, to arouse the Oidus Elyonim, to arouse their upper lights, to upper heavenly lights, to upper heavenly godly revelation to be revealed below. And that's to the way that we prepare ourselves, and we ultimately do, and we create this vessel below. That is the response of what can come into from above, the Mayim Duchrin, the masculine waters. The Chinas Adam Salakise, which is referring to the face of man that's on the throne. Which in Kabbalah, Hanikashe Malka Vuzeir Ampin, which refer to Malka king. And Zeir Ampin means the bracket of the 6 masculine attributes, preceding the recipient, the feminine spheres of Malchus. So the makeup of Adam Shalakise, right? Because Adam Shalakise is the expression of Ezekiel. He said, he saw the faces of the animals, and then he saw the face of man upon the throne, which in Kabbalah is called Adam Kadmon, primordial man. So primordial man, the way he's above, reflects to the way man is below. So a person below wants to connect to where a person's above. What is the person above? What is the reflection of a person above? Is the concept of his 6 midas and Malchus. And the way Malchus is 6 midas and Malchus, and the 7th midah, 7 attribute, the attribute of kingship, the way they come together. These 2 concepts, the way they come together. So the resulting illumination flows down to the world, and it becomes vested and integrated within it. So the way a person acts below, that's the way he reflects his soul, the way it's above. Hence, as mentioned above, offering are termed food of the altar, for they draw down a level of divine light which can be spiritually ingested. So again, the vessel that I make below is what responds from above. So that means the light, the energy, the godliness that comes from above fits the vessel that I made below. That's what's called Or Pnimi, an inner light. The expression we have, the glove fits. So it fits exactly the way I create an arousal from below is what comes in from above to below. The response, it's a cause and effect. That's a natural concept, even though it's a very Kabbalistic concept, but that's the way. Just like the face resembles the face, so the heart responds to the heart. So everything is a cause and effect. The way I love you, the way you're gonna love me. The way my face looks at you, that's the way you're gonna look at me. So there's a cause and effect, and it's so just like it's in this world, the cause and effect. So too, it's the connection between the spiritual and the physical. The way I create my physical, I create the vessel of my physical opportunities, what I want, how high I want my physical to be elevated, is the way the response to spiritual will come down into it. That's the expression of the Kotzker Rebbe. They asked him, where is God? And he answered, where you let him in. So where I, and with the way I prepare my vessel in this world, that's where the God is going to come into this vessel. That's why it's called food. That's all in a normal spiritual, even in a spiritual, the concept of the way spirituality works for physicality. And that's the way God wrote Karbanis. So a person did something wrong in this world by mistake, which means that he uses nefesh Bahamas, he uses animal soul to get the better of him. Now he has to bring a korban. When he wants to rectify that, he has to tshuva. He has to bring a korban. He has to come close to God. And he has to take his animal soul and he has to reconnect it to its true source. He took his animal soul and he used it out for the negative, which is it's not even the true source of the animal soul. He has to reconnect his animal soul to its true source, which is in Merkavas Hashem, which is the face of the animal. He has to even connect the animal soul to a true source. By connecting the animal soul to a true source, rectifies the way the animal is in this world, the way it's rectified above, which rectifies himself, the way he is above, the way he is below. That is the mystical, as I say, to explain this and to go understand this alone, you need a couple of courses. But that is the mystical concept of Karbanis, sacrificial offering. And ultimately, our prayer. But when it comes to the burning of the red heifer, it's Zeis Chukas HaTorah. This is above comprehension. However, it's on account of throwing of the cedar wood with the hyssop and so on. And the function both, which is hamshacha, meaning drawing down sanctity from above. And the moreover, the placing of the running water, mayim chayim, the living water, which was taken from the Beis Hamikdash, ela efer into the ashes. Nikra in the Mishnah, what is this whole process called? Kiddush Mechatis. It's called the sanctification of the purifying waters. What is this? This relates not only to etymology, but to the Kodesh Elyon, to supreme sanctity, referred to as the Hala Dichla, the dew of the bedouin. Torah description of man is called Tala de Dib Ducha. Tal, dew. It says, the breath from heaven. Also man, breath from heaven. It doesn't come, it came in the Torah. Torah says the breath from heaven, the tal, came sandwiched by dew. Dew underneath and dew on top, and the man in the middle. Why is it connected to tal? What's the difference between dew and rain? Rain comes through prayer. Tal, dew comes naturally. We don't have to pray for dew. Dew is something that comes from above. Tal comes through, rain comes from something that's below. So unlike the heavenly benefications that are termed rain, for rain results from arousal from above, below, as it's written, and the vapor rose from the ground and was watered. The above described dew is a spontaneous arousal from above that transcends dependency on any antecedent arousal from below. So that's the concept of dew. That's why it says, what is going to resurrect the dead? How is God going to resurrect the dead? To do? It'll be something that's totally supernatural. Concept supernatural. It's connected to dew. It's not connected to rain. Shekosov is Zoya, as the Zoya writes, Shehi bechinas chachmei la u'meiches tima da'arachan. How the bedulucha is an expression of supreme chachma, and meiches tima, the hidden aspect of wisdom. But arachan, it's a level of chachma within Kesed, which is highly transcends the world. So that's a concept that's above the Ratzon, because Kesed, if you're going to higher than Chachma, you're going to Kesed Ratzon, the will. The will of man, ain't davar ein b'fnei Ratzon. Nothing stands before the will of man. And that's the Ratzon of the Eibishter. That's a chukah. A chukah in general, what's a statute? A law that has no meaning. I mean, it doesn't mean the Eibishter knows the meaning. God has a meaning. But it's the wisdom of God that is above our comprehension. And that's why it's a chukah, it's a decree. Expression of Rashi, when it comes to chukah satera, and by paradum, it says, Ein lach l'shtus ta'alach. You have no right to even doubt it. Because there's nothing you can doubt. Because you don't comprehend it to begin it. It comes with such a high level of wisdom that it's incomprehensible. That's what Shlomo Melech even said, Chakma v'rechayke mimeni, that I have all the wisdom of the Torah. When I came to Paraduma, I realized that I'm far from wisdom. Because the wisdom of the Paraduma goes beyond comprehension of man. And therefore, it affects beyond comprehension of man. And on this level of wisdom, it's said in many places in the sacred Zohar, through Chachma, they are refined and rectified. So there are two ways of rectifying things: through the concept of Avodah, through the service of man, and then there's B'Chachma Spiritu, the concept we rectify the world through wisdom. We find this also in the Gemara in a different way, that when there was no rain in Israel, to certain rabbis they came that they should pray. When they came to Rabbi Shimon Echai, he said a pasuk in the Torah and it rained. That means he ultimately affected the world, not through an aspect of prayer. That means a person comes from below to rectify himself and ask God that he should give him rain. No, it's the power of something that's higher than the aspect of prayer. So the concept of a pasuk in the Torah, which Torah has the power over the world. He brought about rain in the world. And that's the same expression over here, but Chachma is Peridu. That through Chachma it will be refined. That's ultimately what it means. That ultimately the rectification of the world comes from God. Even though we're on the world, we're rectifying the world. That's our Aveda. That's our Aveda. The Sakin is Eilam, to rectify this world. So we have to rectify the world whatever we can through our service in this world, through Torah, through mitzvahs, through Avedas Atfilah, through good deeds, etc., etc. But ultimately, the total rectification of the world, who's going to eradicate evil from the world, is the Eibushter. God is going to eradicate it. How is he going to do that? God is going to reveal himself, his wisdom. It's going to automatically rectify the world. And then by the means of the sanctification of purifying waters, that's what he said. The Eibushter says, we say that constantly. The Eibushter ultimately is going to sprinkle the waters upon us. Water from above, and he's going to purify us. So we're going to purify ourselves as much as we can from below, and then we're going to purify ourselves. We'll have to have something from above, which ultimately that's the Parah Adumah. The Parah Adumah was a person went through, was a 7-day process. A person had to go through a 7-day process of purification when it became impure for the dead body. So the person went through 7 days of purification. And then what happened? They sprinkled the Mayim Chayim and it became pure. Actually, it was twice, 3rd day, the 7th day, the Torah. So ultimately, his purification came from water from above. From Salchutah, sprinkle water upon you and bingo. But it's self-understood, needed both. We needed the purification. The person needed to go to the mikveh, separate himself. He had an avodah. It was not so simple. But ultimately, what purified him from this impurity of the highest level of impurity from death? Water from above, so to say. The kohen sprinkled on water. The water of the Parah Adumah. So too the Eibushter will sprinkle upon us this water. The Chachma Spiritu. You're talking doing all the Aveda, but then ultimately the ultimate purification will be the purification from above. Something that's above comprehension. Something that reaches higher than comprehension. It reaches the will of God. It reaches the two Ratzin. God, what's the Ratzin of God? To not have impurity in the world. To have total purity in the world. So that's the two Ratzin, and that's the way it's accomplished. The Hainu Elam HaTikkun, darkness can realize this world of Tikkun. It's Baravis Nakin. Which becomes refined and rectified by the means of Meiches Timah, the hidden level of wisdom, of Arach Ampin, which is just a name in Zohar for the world of Keser, or the world of Ratzin. Meaning the world of Tayu comes from even a higher level than Tikkun. We are going to ultimately reach up to the world of Tayu, which will refine, which over there in that world happened, the breaking of the vessels, whose spark fell to the world of Bri, Yitzira, Asiyah, Hidnaida, as is known. And that's the ultimate way we're going to have to ultimately reach to rectify the evil in this world. So the spiritual task of a Jew is to extract and refine and elevate these sparks. And that's why the red heifer, which comes and higher than the Merkava, it comes from the chariot of this Pnei Shur, from the ox. It comes from the Ratzin of the Eibushter. It reaches up to the higher level of wisdom, the hidden wisdom, which is in the will of God. That's why it has the power to ultimately transform impurity into purity. Even though that this impurity comes from the ultimate level of death, death of a person, which is the highest level of impurity in the world, the death of a person. Which is much lower than the other impurities that are in this world. So for the sanctification of the purifying waters is drawn down from the supreme chachma, which is Moichis Timoy and Arach Anpin, an illumination that transcends the world so utterly that it's able to transform the darkness into light. And we can have iskafia. In this world, we can have iskafia. We can fight it. We can subdue it. Transformation of darkness and light needs to come from a place that's higher than the source of light. It needs to come from a place that over there we don't see the light, so to say. That's Chachma Stima. Chachma is light. Chachma is another hidden light. The light of Torah, light of Torah. We have to reveal the light of Torah, the light of chaos, to ultimately rectify and transform this world, transform the darkness into light. The Merkava is a chariot. The chariot, what the Ezekiel saw a chariot. We mentioned it in just now in the Tanya. This is the Tanya that talks about the chariot of God. That on the chariot of God, the Merkava, on this chariot, he saw the face of a lion. He saw the face of a lion. He saw the face of a nesher, of an eagle. He saw the face of an ox, and then he saw the face of a person. Like you say, on just the very deep. This is Ezekiel, and you have very deep concepts in Kabbalah. The meaning of these things, the simple meaning that Alter Rebbe has explained to you. The simple meaning is that everything that's in this world has a reflection above. That's what the Alter Rebbe wanted to bring out. So the way the ox is below is the way it looks above. And what does that mean? That we need to connect the ox below to the ox above. And the truth is, how do we do it today? Is by making a bracha on the ox. When you eat a steak, you make a bracha, and you have in mind that you're eating it for the sake of energy to do mitzvahs, to do good deeds. You're connecting the ox below, the steak that you're eating in this world, with the true source, which is the ox above. All your ways shall be the ways of heaven, and you shall know God and know everything you do. That's the way you reflect the Adam Elyon. That's the way you reflect the Adam Sha'alakise, the man, pre-mortal man, so to say, the man, the way he is in heaven. So everything is the way you do. But that's in a normal way. In a normal way, we need to reflect. We need to bring about the reflection. That's why it says you created the image of God. So you need to reflect that. We need to reflect that image. And how do we reflect that image? Is by making sure that our physical image can reflect the image of God. And that takes a lot of work. And then there's a concept of something that comes from above without our work. And that's why you should learn Torah. Because Torah is something that comes from above. If we want to rectify ourselves and we want to become better people, the best way to do it is to learn more and more Torah. Because Torah is something that comes from above. It's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift that comes from above, and therefore it automatically will have an effect on below. So the more Torah we learn, the more Torah will refine us. And especially to learn Torah Lishma. To learn Torah for the sake of learning Torah, not for your personal agenda, not to become a Talmud Chacham, Pasha, to connect to God. To be able to understand the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. Open your minds and let the Torah do its wonders. Let the Torah do its job. The Torah came to, as even the Rambam writes, my mother said the Torah was given to rectify humanity. Torah is a gift that was given. Automatically, the more Torah you're going to learn, it's going to purify yourself. It's going to be, as we just said, the expression in the Zohar, with wisdom you will be rectified. You can do it the other way. Start working yourself and breaking yourself, and that's also that's karbanis. Bring your animal sacrifice and break yourself. Eskafia, hapka, transformation, subjugation, and blah blah blah. Work on yourself 100%. But if you really want to ultimately rectify yourself, is through the wisdom of the Torah. Torah will purify you. We didn't finish this letter. It's a beautiful letter. It's a very deep letter, as you can see, of the Alter Rebbe. Someone understood the Alter Rebbe was writing to the Baditchever, so he was a great scholar himself. We're taking a letter that two friends wrote to each, that the Alter Rebbe wrote to the Baditchever. We're trying to understand. We're trying to, with our limited capacity, try to understand what these two great giants in Torah knowledge had an understanding. So I'm sure the Baditchever didn't have such a difficulty understanding what the Alter Rebbe wanted to tell him. He was a great sage and a great Talmud Chacham and a great Kabbalist on his own. So this must have been easy for the Baditchever to incorporate. For us, it's a little bit more difficult because it's not such easy language and it's deep concepts. But open your mind. We need to open our mind and let the Torah go into it. Let the knowledge come in, and we'll so slowly but surely become part of our own knowledge. Today is the 16th day of the month, which is Tehillim, which chapter 79 to chapter 82. Ayin test to pay base, 79, 80, 81, and 82. If you do those 4 chapters, you've done the chitas of the day. What can be better than doing the chitas of the day? In mid-7 and 45 minutes, we're having a class in the portion of the week, beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe. And everybody's invited to either come to the Chabad or to come back on this Zoom at 10 a.m. We're going to have a beautiful class on the portion of the week. And surely, Misham, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, we'll see you all continue the chitas.